You're going after him.
You don't have to come with me.
I know. When do we start?
100 for 100, the podcast wherein I take 100 movies that I suggest each new movie watcher watch for the first time. If you're still trying to check out something, if you haven't watched these movies, these are the movies you start with. I ranked them from 100 to 1, and then I also gave you a 100-word review for each of them. That's how you get the name of this show, this year's show, 100 for 100, man. We have hit the halfway mark with this film. This is the first 50 days of 2020. I'm releasing one a day for the first 100 days of the year. We are at the 50 mark. We're on the back half after this. And it starts with, or I guess it ends the first half with number 50, another MCU joint. Yesterday we talked about Marvel's The Avengers. Today we're talking about Captain America, The Winter Soldier. 2014, directed by Joe and Anthony Russo, collectively known as the Russo brothers. Let's get into this 100-word review. Featuring an opening scene that would have a far greater emotional impact years later, Captain America the Winter Soldier completely shifted the style of storytelling in the MCU. Deciding to fit a superhero story within the framework of a spy thriller, the Russo brothers brought Steve Rogers to the present and elevated his stock amongst the core team members. Adding Steve's moral opposite, Black Widow, helped reflect Cap's views on a modern society. Some of the genre's more ruthless and physical fight scenes, aided with the frantic camera work, make The Winter Soldier one of the most beloved films in the franchise. Now, I didn't mean for two MCU movies to come back to back on this list. It just kind of happened. It just kind of worked out that way. So, these things happen. The Captain America the Winter Soldier is as far as superhero movies are concerned, I find it is a masterpiece. It is a great combination of both action, suspense, and great character work. Wonderful direction, great camera work. The score is just as frantic as the camera work is at times, especially when the Winter Soldier's on the scene. It gives us our second most, probably, exposure to Nick Fury. Yeah, I'd probably say Avengers is first. Winter Soldier is second. This is when, after the Avengers, they realized if we want to stay at the top of the game, if we want to stay relevant, we can't just keep making superhero movies, quote unquote. We need to start borrowing from other genres and putting our superheroes within the framework. That's how we stay relevant, and that's exactly what they did. Winter Soldier, a spy thriller. Guardians of the Galaxy, a space opera. Ant-Man, a heist film. Iron Man 3, a film about PTSD, effectively. That's how they stayed fresh in the genre. They kept switching it up on us. You look at Doctor Strange, that's the most mind-trippy psychological shit that I've seen. I can't wait for Multiverse of Madness. But yeah, the Winter Soldier, balancing Steve against Natasha, Natasha against Steve, with Fury somewhere there in the middle, is excellent. Bringing back Bucky Barnes as the Winter Soldier. Of course, all of us comic book fans knew that was coming, but the way they did it, the reveal as they did it with the parts of the mask, the Winter Soldier mask slowly coming off to reveal Sebastian Stan's face as the Winter Soldier, amazing. It was great being in the audience being in the crowd that first night and hearing the gasps of, hey, that's the guy who died in the first movie. It was satisfying to be able to experience that with them. That bridge fight, which is kind of like that big second act battle, is one of my favorites. And we cannot talk about this movie without talking about Sam Wilson, aka the best ride or die character outside of Jeremy Renner in The Town that exists, man. And he doesn't ask many questions, does he? He meets Steve Rogers. They chit-chat for a bit. And then all of a sudden, he's showing up a week later at his house, him and Natasha, bruised, bloodied up. People are trying to kill us. He doesn't ask questions. He's like, all right, come on in. How can I help? At the very end of the film, after all this madness has gone down, he's got every right to be like, you know what? I'm going back to my quiet life. Nope. Steve's like, I'm going to find Bucky Barnes. And he's like, all right, how can I help? And the fact that that's how the film ends, that's what lets you know, all right, this is his new best friend, his modern age best friend. And it'll be interesting to see in Falcon and the Winter Soldier how Steve Rogers, his old best friend, partners up with his new best friend. Because you always like seeing your worlds collide between friends like that. yeah, the fact that they gave this film to some dudes who just directed a comedy for NBC. They saw how they framed with their little bits of action within that show, and that's another reason why MCU does so well is they take the risks. They take a risk on James Gunn. They took a risk on the Russo brothers, I think. Yes, if you have not checked out The Winter Soldier, I'm surprised you even know what this podcast is, but go ahead and do yourself a favor and refresh if you have not. Number 50 on this list, Captain America, The Winter Soldier.